In this video, I'm going to give you some additional tips and tricks you can use when working in Google Sheets for Day 3 Mathematical Modeling College Characteristics. So the first tip I have for you is to always just pull out the two things you're going to analyze. So decide ahead of time what relationship you want to look into and pull them out. So I'm going to add another sheet and I'm going to highlight the columns I want to look at. Right now, I want to look at ownership of schools, so private, for-profit, private, nonprofit, or public, and how that affects the cost per year. Does ownership affect the cost of the college? Now, I'm going to highlight these two columns, and I'm going to press data, and I'm going to create a filter. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to kind of filter out different values. So for example, I want to know, just look at the private universities that are for profit. How much do they cost? So I'm gonna filter that, and I see, okay, interesting. Most of them are in like the 20s and 30s. Okay. I can also sort it. If I click A to Z, it's gonna go from smallest to biggest. I can also filter it by condition. So I can say, I only wanna see the private universities that are less than 20,000. If you were creating a frequency table, this might help because now I only see there's 2 private universities that are less than 20,000. How many? I'm going to unclick private. I'm going to click public. How many public universities? Oh, a lot more. Interesting. Notice how this is going from smallest to biggest. Now let's say I wanted to say, well, how many are between, like a median price? How many are between 20,000 and 40,000? Look how many public universities there are between 20,000 and 40,000. And so you can do this, let's see, about private nonprofits. Interesting. And so you can count these up and create a frequency table for the different intervals of information as one example of a statistical representation. Once you have that frequency table, you can go ahead and then create a circle graph or a histogram, and I'll just show you where those are. If you go to data and you click sorry, not data. If you go to insert and you click chart, you're going to have options to insert different charts. Right now, this one's a mess because it has so many different values and they're not grouped. But you have choice of charts where you can pick here. You go to chart type, and that's where you can see different ones. But notice, right now, this is not grouped, so we have so many different parts of the pie chart. That's why if you were to create a frequency table, you would want to count up for each one. How many are less than 20,000? Between 20,000 and 40,000? And greater than 40,000. This is just one example. Once you have that table and those groupings and you count them up using these filter and sort features, you can then go ahead and build your pie chart or histogram. I'm going to uncheck. I'm going to check all of them. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to not filter them anymore. So it's just all of them again. And another thing you can do is you can insert a pivot table. So you can go to data and click pivot table, and it's going to open it on a new sheet. And the cool thing about a pivot table is it's going to actually calculate the average for you. And I'm going to click here to make this bigger. So private for-profit colleges cost on average about $26,000. Nonprofit privates cost on average about $43,000, and public schools cost on average about $20,000. The grand total is not really relevant for our data, so I'm going to get rid of that. So here's some statistical information that I can use as a representation for my model. I was able to create a pivot table and identify the average for each one. You can also get the median. You can add a column. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, you can add a row. That's what I meant to do. And you can get the cost per year here, but that's probably not going to be relevant for this one. Okay. And so the pivot tables, you can do a couple different ones and kind of get different statistical values that are important. So you have the median, you have the maximum, the minimum, the standard deviation, the average. And so you'll get that data. If you want to make this show less decimals so that you're able to show it as more meaningful data for money, you can just click this and it's just gonna, this way, and it's just gonna take off decimals. If you want to go down to the cent, you can just do this. It's gonna be to the hundredths place. And so a pivot table is another statistical representation you can use, and Google Sheets is a great resource to use when creating and modeling with statistics.